Exposed. 7 spine-chilling tales of haunting cabins in Appalachia's forbidden forests. The whispers of Oak Hollow sent shivers down spines as families prepared for a weekend retreat at a cabin perched on the edge of the infamous forbidden forest. Some say the trees themselves keep secrets, ancient pacts shrouded in shadows. Nothing could quite prepare them for the chilling stories embedded in this untamed land, a place where kids chased the sun and parents tucked the past away like distant memories. As Jamie Carter flipped burgers, her laughter mingled with that of giggling children, the air thick with both smoke and promise. However, deep inside her, doubt flickered. What seemed like a fun getaway was laced with apprehension, especially with the dark folklore lurking just outside the comfort of the cabin. Could it be true? They say that if you listen closely enough at night, you might hear the echoes of lost souls trapped within the ancient oaks. Jamie scoffed at the stories, dismissing them as mere tales, yet the chills settling in as dusk beckoned was almost tangible. Then came the moment. Laughter gave way to a stillness that swept through the woods. Without warning, shadows loomed longer, their edges whispering secrets. Children scuttled closer to the fire, eyes wide with unease. It was one thing to share a laugh over ghost stories. It was another when Jamie's daughter, Lily, peered into the thicket and squeaked of seeing her grandmother among the trees, one she had never met but only heard tales of. Jamie's heart lurched. The stories were too close to home. The night unfolded, dreams laced with an eeriness that felt so real and suffocating. Each family member turned restlessly, abruptly awakened by vivid visions of their ancestors' choices, desperate gambles with unearthly beings. A creeping dread began to settle between them, like a fog rolling over the forest. Heartbeats quickened, secrets bled into conversations, turning curiosity into tension, an unsettled bond entrapping them tighter than they could have imagined. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As morning light broke, Jamie felt an unwelcoming weight settling in. The air brimmed with uncertainty. Families clashed amidst the unraveling threads of their lineage and their burdens. They said you never escaped what haunted you, and here it felt as if the trees were already whispering for answers. The mysterious land seemed to unfurl its grip, but she could not decipher whether it aimed to protect, provoke fear, or simply collect debts left unpaid. With the sky shadowing their every misstep, a thunderstorm building up in the distance, a crack of unpredictability gripping them, they decided to venture deeper into the forbidden forest. Yet, as their flashlights flickered rapidly, plunging them into darkness, an anguished wail echoed through the trees, stirring primal fears within. What had they summoned? Would they confront the darkness, or would the secrets of their past choose for them? The air turned heavy, clinging to their skin like a damp shroud. Jamie's heart raced as the anguished wail faded into the whispering leaves, replaced by an eerie stillness that seemed to pulse within the trees. The flashlight beams danced nervously, illuminating twisted roots and gnarled branches that appeared to reach out, like skeletal hands grasping for something long lost. Did you hear that? Lily's voice trembled, a thread of fear weaving through her words. All eyes shifted toward the little girl, who clung tightly to her mother's side. Jamie knelt down, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. It was nothing, sweetheart. Just the wind, she reassured, though the words felt hollow in her mouth. But deep down, something whispered otherwise. It was hard to shake the feeling that the forest was alive, watching them with judgmental eyes embedded within the bark. As Jamie turned to consult the others, she caught sight of her brother Mark, a skeptic through and through, staring into the distance with an uneasy expression plastered on his face. It sounded human, he muttered, glancing nervously at the thick trunks looming around them. There was an edge to his voice, one Jamie hadn't heard from him before. Let's just keep going. Emma, Mark's wife, added, gripping his arm tightly. Her voice was a mixture of encouragement and anxiety, the same feeling rippling through Jamie's own heart. The storm had intensified, the looming clouds brewing overhead threatening to spill darkness upon their gathering. The moment they took another step deeper, a bone-chilling wind swept through the trees, rustling the dry leaves like whispers of long-forgotten memories. Tension hung thick in the air. Even the children seemed to sense it, quieting as the rustling turned to an unsettling rustle. And then, a flash of light caught Jamie's attention, a sliver of brightness cutting through the underbrush. Over there, she pointed, her instincts kicking in, the explorer deep within her rising. It could be a cave, or a bear den, Mark interjected with trepidation. Ignoring his warning, Jamie led them toward the glimmer. Each step felt like a dangerous choice, but curiosity propelled her. The thicket opened up into a small clearing, revealing an ancient stone formation that looked oddly out of place, its surface etched with strange symbols. Before anyone could voice their doubts, Lily darted ahead, drawn toward a shimmering stone that lay at the center of the formation. "Look!" she squealed, her voice startling. Jamie caught her breath. "Lily, wait!" she shouted, but it was too late. The moment her daughter touched the stone, the earth trembled beneath their feet. A low rumble echoed through the clearing, and the trees seemed to lean in closer, as if surrounding them. Jamie's heart pounded as shadows deepened, and a low, guttural laughter emanated from nowhere, filling the air with a cold, unsettling energy. "Run!" Mark yelled, instinctively grabbing Emma's hand, urging the group back. But Jamie couldn't move. Her gaze was locked on Lily, whose eyes glimmered with something otherworldly, a spark of knowledge that didn't belong to her. "Mommy," she said softly, her voice eerie and distant. "They want to talk." A frigid gust swept through the clearing, scattering fallen leaves, as if to clear a path. Jamie felt a surge of primal fear gripping her throat. What had Lily awakened? The forest wasn't merely a backdrop, it was alive, a maze of secrets and forgotten pain waiting to be unleashed. As the last echoes of the laughter faded, Jamie's mind raced. Was this the moment they crossed into something beyond their understanding? What was waiting for them in the darkness? They had ventured too far into the forbidden forest now. But what they didn't know was that what lurked beyond was only beginning to stir, and the worst was yet to come. Jamie's feet felt like lead as she stared at her daughter, Lily's small hand resting against the pulsating stone. The air thickened, pressing against her chest like a vice. She opened her mouth, wanting to scream, to pull her daughter away, but the sound wouldn't come. "Lily!" Jamie's voice wavered, slicing through the suffocating atmosphere. Lily turned to her, but her expression had changed. The innocence in her eyes had been replaced by a hollow gaze, as if something had seeped in from the dark edges of the forest and taken root within her. "Mommy," she said again, but this time her voice carried the weight of 1,000 sorrows. "It's okay. They need us." Mark was already dragging Emma backward, his face pale, knuckles white as he gripped her arm. "We have to go?" he shouted, urgency lacing his words. But Jamie couldn't refuse the pull of the stone. It flickered with promise, drawing her closer, and with each step, her heart raced harder. A pressure built in her head, and a faint buzzing echoed from the stone, almost like a whisper. The trees swayed violently, throwing shadows that twisted and turned. The laughter returned, louder now, more menacing, as if inviting them deeper into the depths of the forest. A chill wrapped around Jamie, paralyzing her instincts, reminding her of leap years, where people simply vanished without explanation. Yet Lily stood there, a beacon in this choking darkness, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the stone. "Mommy, they're lonely, they want family." Jamie's heart twisted. How could her sweet girl say such things? The ground heaved again, and Jamie's resolve crumbled. She rushed forward, grasping Lily's shoulders. "No, we need to leave." But in that moment, Lily stiffened as if a current pulsed through her tiny frame. "Listen," she yelled, her voice suddenly strong and confident. "You're afraid, but they are sad. They've lost so much." Just then, the wind howled, flinging branches across the clearing, snapping twigs like bones underfoot. The laughter turned sour, rooted in desperation. Mark and Emma stumbled backward, their fear palpable, but all Jamie could hear was her daughter's voice, growing louder, clearer. "They know where we came from," Lily shouted, pointing at the stone, whose engravings began to shift and swirl. Symbols morphed like living shadows, hinting at stories untold of anguish, a forgotten lives snuffed out in the forest's sprawling embrace. "Lily, please," Jamie begged, tears stinging her eyes. "It's not safe here." But there was an incredible light in her daughter's eyes now, a glint of something ancient and unfathomable. Jamie felt it beckon to her, much like a moth longs for flame. Suddenly, the shadows coalesced, swirling into a figure, a wraith-like silhouette that stepped from the trees, a gnarled face filled with despair and longing. It pointed a bony finger toward the glowing stone, as if urging them to understand. A depth of grief radiated from it, intermingled with the laughter that lurked in the confines of their minds. "Mommy," Lily breathed, "what if they can help us?" Panic shot through Jamie. Help? What kind of help could creatures like these offer? They were trapped, ensnared by something as ancient as time itself. Mark's shout broke through the tension. "We're leaving. Now." He clutched Emma tightly, his eyes darting around, looking for a route of escape. "Lily," Jamie's voice cracked, merging fear and a desperate hope. "We have to go?" But the decision was slipping through her fingers like sand. Would they find safety, or dive deeper into the unknown? What consequence awaited them if they dared to linger another moment? As Jamie hesitated, fear and curiosity warring within her, the wraith's laughter echoed louder, drowning her thoughts. "Do you know what they've lost?" Lily asked, her voice wreathed in something almost sacred. The moment stretched, gravity pulling them toward the stone like moths to the flame. Jamie felt the weight of decisions looming over her. And just as she opened her mouth to respond, the shadows closed in, swarming like a tempest, ready to claim them all in. Their cold embrace. What awaited them as they stood at the heart of darkness? What memories would the forest unravel once they stepped beyond the threshold? The surge of shadows enveloped them, curling tightly around Jamie like a serpent ready to strike. The laughter grew twisted, floating through the air like smoke, deepening into something dark and sinister. Jamie clutched Lily tighter, her heart racing, pounding against her ribs. She could feel the darkness pressing inwards, a weight that pushed her desire to flee into the abyss. "Mommy," Lily's voice rang out again, but this time it felt less like a plea for safety and more like a command. Jamie's mind whirled. It felt surreal, like she was standing on the precipice of a cliff, eyes locked on what lay below, something alluring yet catastrophic. "We cannot stay." Mark's voice cracked, panic lacing his tone. He tugged on Emma's arm, but she stood frozen, mesmerized by the figures emerging from the dark. Their forms twisted and elongated, gnarled hands reaching forward, each finger seeming to vibrate with a life of its own. "Help us," one of the wraith-like figures whispered, its voice layered with despair and longing. The air thickened with a cacophony of emotions: grief, regret, loneliness, and Jamie felt it claw at her heart. The stone pulsed rhythmically, as if syncing with the wild thrumming of their hearts. "Lily, please," Jamie implored, stubbornly shaking her head, desperate to snap her daughter out of this trance. "We have to go? We can't trust them." The shadows lurked, hunger glimmering in their depths, as if waiting for Jamie to relent. But Lily stepped forward, the glow of the stone reflecting in her eyes, now fierce with conviction. "They're not monsters, Mommy. They know what we've lost. What can they possibly understand?" Jamie gasped, the confusion dissipating into fear. She felt her pulse quicken, and every instinct screamed at her to retreat. But the stone's allure beckoned, a promise of understanding she had never considered. A piercing scream erupted from Emma, slicing through the fog of supernatural whispers. The laughter turned into choking sobs, echoing against the walls of trees, pulling at Jamie's heart. "Mark." She turned to him, tears pooling in her eyes. "What do we do?" "They want us to lose ourselves," he said, his voice a strained whisper. "Stay focused, Jamie. We cannot fall for their lies." Yet, as he spoke, the festive echoes filled the forest, brushing against Jamie's mind with tantalizing memories of lost loved ones, beloved pets, moments stolen by time. She could feel Lily inching away, drawn toward the stone, where the engravings now spun like the hands of a clock unraveling its fabric. "Mommy, the forest remembers," Lily called back, the words laden with an energy so strong they reverberated through the trees. "Help them remember." The shadows flickered, shimmering with urgency, and Jamie's heart plummeted as she realized they were caught in a web of their own making. The forest was alive, breathing, its tendrils reaching for them not just to ensnare them, but to unveil reality, revealing secrets buried within shadows. But just as Jamie felt herself beginning to slip, the wraith figures swarmed closer, the air thick with their despair. "Join us," they cried, voices woven into a harmonic cry that wrapped itself around her mind. "No," Jamie shouted, the protest bubbling from her core. She lunged forward and grasped Lily's wrist. "We're leaving." But as she turned to run, the ground trembled beneath them, roots coiling like snakes to trap her feet. Shadows danced wildly in the periphery, laughter now mingling with sobs. What horrors were they meant to face? "Mommy!" Lily exclaimed, her voice laced with an urgency that cut through the chaos. "We can't forget them. We have to help them find peace." With every heartbeat, Jamie felt herself pulled deeper into the darkness, the choice fraying like the edges of a worn-out tapestry. What would she risk to save her daughter? What was hidden within the tangled veil of the unknown? And as the whispers grew more insistent, the shadows closing in, a monstrous truth loomed on the horizon. Could embrace become a trap? The roots tightened around Jamie's ankles, wrenching her from her balance. She stumbled, pulling Lily close, but it felt like fighting against rising waters. The shadows slinked forward, their whispers now frantic, each wraith reaching for them with cold, desperate fingers. "Mommy!" Lily screamed, but the plea was swallowed by the chorus of anguish surrounding them. Jamie's heart hammered in her chest, half from fear, half from the overpowering sense of something beyond the veil of the shadows. "Fight it!" Mark's voice faltered, panic rising like bile in his throat. He struggled against the tendrils wrapped around him, veins standing out like cords on his neck. The shadows seemed to relish his fear, swirling with delight at his helplessness. "Jamie!" Emma shrieked, her wicked glee replaced with terror. "They're pulling me in." Tears escaped her eyes, and Jamie caught the flicker of sorrow reflected in the shadows, mirroring their distress. Each cry pierced Jamie's gut, making her want to weep, but she steeled herself, battling for clarity. "Lily," she choked out, "hold on to me." She could feel the darkness pulse like a heartbeat, wrapping tighter around them. But she felt something emerge through the fog, the warmth of her daughter's small hand, grasping on with fierce determination. In that entwined moment, they were drawn back to the stone. Jamie felt its pull, a magnetic lure promising answers to questions long buried. "Lily, look at me," she pleaded, forcing her gaze into her daughter's eyes, wide and glimmering with something other than fear. "We have to remember who we are." Just then, the laughter transformed again, this time into a longing, haunting melody. The forest felt alive, the air thickening with forgotten dreams. Memories surged like tidal waves crashing into a shore, moments she thought lost to time. Her father's laugh, the scent of blooming lilacs in spring, the warmth of sunlight spilling across her childhood home, it all threatened to suffocate her now. A wraith reached forward, its elongated fingers brushing against her arm, bringing icy dread that stole her breath away. "Let us in," it whispered, each word soaked in desperation. "Remember us, help us find peace." "No," Jamie screamed, shaking her head as if to dispel their haunting call. "You're not real." But even as she shouted, doubt gnawed away at her resolve. What if they were real? What if their fates were intertwined? The weight of those thoughts threatened to drown her. She felt Lily squeeze her hand, warmth at the center of the encroaching cold. "Mommy, we can't leave them, they're lost," her daughter said softly, determination creeping into her voice. "We have to help them remember." Mark made a frantic bid, tugging at her other arm like a lifeline. "Jamie, you have to focus on us. Our family, it's more important." The shadows recoiled, and a brief stillness fell over the chaos. She glimpsed the pain in their faces, souls twisted in anguish. Lost, just like her. And at the heart of it all lay the stone, glowing, pulsing, vibrating with an energy she couldn't ignore. Jamie steadied her breath, grappling with the choice. She could run, take Lily far away, but at what cost? Or she could stand and face the darkness, embrace her grief, and perhaps find a path to healing. A fissure of hope mingled with fear grew within her, pushing her forward. "What did we lose, Mommy?" Lily's innocent voice sliced through the tension like glass breaking. The shadows surged again at this crack in Jamie's conviction, swirling in a maelstrom, their cries escalating into a nightmarish symphony. Join us. Remember. Let go. They beckoned, hungry for connection as the shadows closed in tighter than a vice. Jamie felt the room spin, the world blurring. One thought ricocheted in her mind, like thunder, what if she could be brave enough to unlock their secrets? And with that realization, she took her daughter's hand and stepped toward the darkness, ready to confront whatever lay ahead together. But just then, the ground beneath them erupted, and Jamie felt herself being pulled into a whirlpool of shadows. What awaited them in the depths of the darkness? She could only pray they wouldn't lose themselves entirely. The shadows enveloped Jamie and Lily as the world around them twisted into chaos. They were pulled downward, the earth gaping beneath their feet like an abandoned mouth. Jamie gritted her teeth, holding on to Lily with every ounce of her strength. Her heart raced, each beat punctuated by screams, some hers, some echoing from the wraiths dragged into their awakening. "Mommy!" Lily's voice was a thin wisp of sound, trembling with fear. Jamie couldn't see beyond the swirling darkness, but she felt the grief hanging in the air like smoke, shocking and oppressive. "Hold on tight," Jamie screamed, fighting against the growing despair. She could sense the depths calling her, the very stones yearning for their secrets to be unveiled. As they descended into the void, time seemed to stretch and warp. Images flashed through her mind like wildfire, lost opportunities, unfulfilled promises, the warmth of a hug that had slipped through her fingers. Then, just as suddenly, they landed not with a crash, but softly, as if the darkness knew they were its guests. It was oddly quiet here, the familiar sounds of the forest reduced to a muffled whisper. The shadows shifted, their forms twisting into shapes that were almost recognizable. Faces, ghostly and forlorn, filled the air, swirling around Jamie and Lily like wisps of fog. Jamie, a voice croaked, crackling like dry leaves underfoot. She turned, heart racing as she recognized the familiar figure wrapped in shadows, her father, his eyes vacant yet alight with an unnameable yearning. "Dad!" She reached for him, but the moment her fingers brushed against his form, he faded, leaving a cold spot in space where warmth should have been. "No, please. Find us, remember," he whispered, and his anguish seeped into her very being, wrapping itself around her heart like barbed wire. The shadows hissed, almost angry at her weakness. "You cannot turn back," they hissed, their voices a cacophony of despair. "This is where they dwell." "Mommy, what are they saying?" Lily asked, her voice small, the innocence clashing with the heavy tension bearing down on them. "We're here for a reason." Jamie gritted her teeth, forcing the fear down. "We need to understand, was it really just about helping these lost souls, or was there more?" Jamie's heart raced with a dawning realization. Each name whispered by the shadows felt familiar, dangling on the tips of her thoughts. She closed her eyes, breathing in sharply. With each inhalation, the memories pushed against her mind like waves against a shore, urging her to remember the things best left buried. Fragments of laughter and heartache fluttered like moths in her chest. "Find us, help us, remember." The voices grew stronger, weaving a spell of desperation around her. They were all calling for something, an understanding that lingered just out of reach. "Why should I help you?" Jamie yelled, the words bursting forth like a dam breaking. "You took everything from me. You left us in darkness." As her voice echoed into the void, the wraiths recoiled, their faces morphing into expressions of pain, and for a fleeting moment, Jamie felt empathy swell in her heart. They were lost, yes, but were they really to blame? "Mommy, don't be afraid." Lily's hand tightened around hers, grounding Jamie in that moment of haunting uncertainty. Maybe they're just as lost as we are," Jamie whispered, her instinct clawing to pull back, but the desire to understand was taking hold. They were locked in a standoff, the living fighting against the dead, emotions colliding like thunder. Would she dare to step further into the abyss? Could she face whatever truth lay within those shadows? The ground beneath them trembled, and Jamie felt the shadows begin to shift again. "Come," a voice murmured, deep and resonant. "Join us, you have much to remember." And just like that, the shadows began to dissolve, opening a pathway lined with flickering lights, leading deeper into the heart of darkness. What awaited them at the end of that path? Jamie's heart raced, her instincts screaming to turn back. But the pull of the unknown was undeniable. The answer lay just ahead, waiting to be uncovered. But at what cost? The flickering lights beckoned like distant stars, casting an eerie glow that buzzed with anticipation. Jamie took a hesitant step forward, drawing Lily close. "Stay behind me," she whispered, her voice trembling despite her resolve. The pathway felt alive, pulsating, as if the very ground throbbed with secrets waiting to pour forth. With every tentative step, the memories began to swirl around them. They glimmered in the dark, snippets of laughter and sorrow twined together, creating a tapestry of emotions that haunted the air. The lingering echoes pressed against Jamie's chest, squeezing it tight. "This is it, we're getting closer," she murmured. But were they ready to face whatever lay ahead? Suddenly, the whispers transformed into a chorus, a swell of longing crashing over her. "Remember us, remember," the voices rose in urgency, and Jamie stumbled, the weight of their collective despair nearly bringing her to her knees. "Mommy, I don't like this," Lily squeaked, her innocence dragged into a whirlpool of suffering. Jamie turned to see her daughter's face illuminated by a dim light, fear etched in every feature. She reached for Lily, pulling her closer. "I know, sweetie. Just hold on." They pushed on, the path narrowing, drawing them into a more defined space thick with swirling mist. Faces began to form in the fog, fleeting glances of people long gone. Jamie's heart raced as the wisps coalesced around her, desperate and intent. One figure emerged, more defined than the rest, an older woman, her hair a cascade of silver, eyes shimmering with a mix of sadness and wisdom. "You seek what was lost, don't you?" she asked, her voice rich with familiarity. Who are you?" Jamie's voice trembled. "What do you want from us?" "Answers are buried in the shadows, child. You must confront your past to liberate us. There lies the truth you yearn for." The woman's gaze bore into Jamie, compelling yet frightening. "Remember me, Jamie?" the woman pressed, leaning closer. Recognition flickered in Jamie's mind, a memory almost tangible. Was this her grandmother? Pain shot through her like an electric current. "You left us. You left me." The woman's features shifted, and suddenly Jamie could see her father's face, so familiar, yet altered by burden. "Find our memories before the shadows claim you. Time is not on your side." "Time?" Jamie gasped, the world around them warping as the shadows thickened, clawing at her with icy fingers. "What do you mean?" "Your fear binds you, Jamie." The woman's voice echoed, fading into the shadows. "Only by confronting it can you set us free." With a jolt, Jamie felt the earth tremble again beneath their feet. The shadows were closing in, forming a thick blanket that pushed against her. Panic threatened to overtake her, but she anchored herself with Lily's small hand in hers. "We can do this, right?" she whispered, more to herself than to her daughter. Mommy. Lily's eyes shimmered, wide and trusting. Jamie pushed down the dread swelling within her, grasping at thoughts of courage. They had to press on, no matter how terrifying it felt. "What was lost must be found," she muttered, almost in prayer, stepping into the thickening darkness. Each stride shook with uncertainty, yet a part of her knew they must discover the pieces of their past to make it through. But just ahead, in the thickening gloom, flickers of recognizable figures appeared, twisted and contorted. Wails echoed like a mournful symphony, each note clawing at her mind. Jamie hesitated at the threshold, dread pooling in her stomach. "Mommy!" Lily's cry snapped Jamie back, her heart racing anew. The figures were closing in, shadows forming claws that reached out. What came next could shatter them or transform everything they understood. With resolve burning in her chest, Jamie took a deep breath. "We can do this, Lily. Together." But as they stepped further into the void, a single thought pierced through the chaos. Were they strong enough to confront the truth, or would it swallow them whole? They pressed onward, the darkness seeming to shift in anticipation. What shattered realities awaited them just beyond the next turn? A sudden chill wrapped around them, unseen fingers clutching at their hearts. They were closer. Now, they had to discover if the past could truly free the future or if it harbored an insurmountable darkness. Jamie's breath came in quick, shallow bursts, each exhale sending a frosty mist into the oppressive air. The shadows swirled around them, a living entity eager to consume. She could feel the weight of her ancestors pressing around her, voices echoing reminders of pain and regret. "Hold my hand tight, Lily," she urged, squeezing her daughter's small palm. Lily nodded, but Jamie could see the storm of fear churning behind her innocent eyes. Just as they moved forward, a piercing scream erupted from somewhere deep in the darkness. It wasn't the wailing figures. It was much closer. Jamie instinctively bent down, shielding Lily as instinct kicked in. The shadows shifted, and Jamie's heart hammered. Was that a flicker of light she saw ahead? It pulsed faintly, a beacon in the suffocating gloom. "This way," she called, tugging Lily along as they headed toward the glow, the primal urge to flee mingling with the desperation to uncover the truth. As they neared the light, the cacophony of voices grew louder, twisting into garbled lamentations. "You must remember," they cried. "You must not forget." A sudden rush of energy enveloped her, as if she were being pulled into a memory not her own. The chilling pain of loss slammed into her chest, and for a fleeting moment, Jamie stood in a dilapidated living room. She saw a younger version of herself, tears streaming down her cheeks, clinging to a woman her mother. The air was thick with pleading, heated arguments, slicing through the moment like daggers. "You can't leave me," young Jamie cried, her voice breaking. Before she could reach out, the vision shattered. The younger Jamie was gone, and the fierce shadows clawed at her mind, tangling her thoughts in a snare of dread. "Mommy, I don't want to go back. I want to go home," Lily pleaded, her voice trembling with terror. Jamie felt the panic rise, swamping her like a tidal wave. "I know, sweetie, but we have to be brave," she choked out, forcing herself to fight against the fear that wrapped around her like a fog. Yet the shadows danced closer, mocking, whispering secrets she was not prepared to uncover. In the darkness, memories surged and shifted. She could see her mother, the warmth of her embrace now a hollow echo. With every twist of the shadows, the guilt weighed heavier on Jamie's shoulders. What had happened? Where had her past gone? The answers lay before them, but she could feel the lure of self-preservation nudging her to flee back to safety, away from the devastation just beneath the surface. As they moved forward again, a wail drew closer, plucking at her heartstrings. "Jamie, help us!" It resonated like a thread connecting her to those lost. The air crackled with tension, and the lights dimmed, leaving them in an oppressive haze of darkness. "Fight it!" The echo of the older woman urged again, anger piercing through the despair. "You know the truth." Jamie gritted her teeth, steeling herself. She would not succumb. She had to fight for her daughter, for all the voices asking to be remembered. They could not be trapped in this sorrow any longer. But just as the light appeared again, coalescing into the shape of a boy with sunlit curls and hallowed eyes, everything froze. Mommy, Lily's voice barely whispered as she quaked beside Jamie. Who are you?" Jamie stammered, the recognition dawning too late. The boy's face twisted, caught between joy and despair, just as the shadows lunged. His stare struck like fire, igniting a truth long buried. "You can't leave me, you must remember." Each word cut through Jamie like shards of glass, and as the shadows closed in, a fissure of realization broke open inside her. The boy's identity was a key to everything she had buried deep. Was he her brother? "Lily, stay close," she shouted as terror pooled around them. The boy stretched a hand toward her, glowing softly with an otherworldly light. But the darkness was relentless, closing around them, a coil of panic rising in her throat. Could she really face this? Jamie took one last breath, her heart pounding like a rhythm desperate for life. "We can't let them take us." Just then, the shadows roared, shaking her to her core. "Remember us all around." Echoes merged into a ferocious symphony, urging her toward a truth she was terrified could obliterate everything she knew. And just as the shadows reached, Jamie grasped the boy's hand, hoping their connected memories could shatter the fear, but as blinding light flashed, Jamie realized the past was clawing back for a reason. What had she done? What had she lost? The boundaries of time began to blur, and she could only hope that this was not her end, but rather the beginning of confronting the ultimate truth. Would the shadows release their grip, or would she become lost like the others? The moment the blinding light enveloped them, Jamie felt a rush akin to falling. She tasted the metallic tang of fear as memories collided, forming a whirlwind of emotions and fragmented images. A relentless pull drew her deeper into the light. The boy's hand still clutched tightly in hers, warmth contrasting sharply against the cold dread in the air. "Mommy, what is happening?" Lily's small voice broke through the chaos, every syllable laced with confusion and fear. Jamie swallowed hard, trying to stay anchored for her daughter. "You'll be okay, Lily," she promised, but doubt gnawed at her insides. The brightness faded, leaving them in a new landscape wide, open, but draped in shadow. Jamie's heart sank as she recognized the scene around them. That it was the clearing behind her childhood home, a place once filled with laughter and hide-and-seek games, now shrouded in darkness. The trees wrapped their gnarled branches like skeletal arms, and the air thickened with apprehension. The boy stood beside her, his eyes wide and pleading. "You have to remember, please." He looked so familiar, yet so distant, a thread of connection pulled taut, desperately yearning to snap back into the fabric of her life. "What do you want from me? Who are you?" Jamie felt powerless, grappling with memories that danced just out of reach, like waves receding from the shore. "Your brother," he whispered. "You can't forget. You promised you'd come back for us." Bile rose in Jamie's throat. The boy's haunting features mirrored her own, intertwining life with loss. The pain was a ghost clinging to her even now. Her brother, Oliver. Memories flooded in unruly laughter, the scent of sun-warmed grass, the day he vanished. The day silence swallowed her family whole. That a chilling breeze rustled the leaves, making the shadows leap closer, hungry whispers clawing at their very souls. "Remember us," it murmured, over and over, each repetition a dagger. "No, I can't," Jamie cried out, panic surging through her veins. "I can't face it." But the boy, her brother, stepped closer. "You have to. If you don't, they'll keep coming. They want you to forget, Jamie." Suddenly, the clearing erupted with voices shouting, crying, pleading. The echoes of those she lost surrounded her, a cacophony of guilt and sorrow. "Save us, Jamie," they cried. "Wake up," Lily screamed, as fear drained the color from her face. The shadows twisted into forms she couldn't make out, but felt deeply broken promises and shattered dreams, pulsing with life and death, yearning for release. "Join us," they beckoned, and Jamie felt herself teetering on the precipice of the void. The thought of losing her daughter, her only beacon of hope, anchored her momentarily. But the urge to know the truth was overwhelming. The shadows closed tighter, each heartbeat in sync with the cry of the past. "You must choose," the boy insisted, eyes burning with desperation. "Face your truth, or be lost forever." Staring into the darkened horizon of her memories, Jamie's heartbeat thundered in her ears. There was no choice. She needed to fight for her family, her brother, and Lily. She had to confront the shadows. With a shaky breath, she shouted into the dark, "I remember. I won't forget." Each word felt like an explosion, scattering the encroaching darkness, revealing a path woven with the fragments of her past. The boy smiled, a flicker of hope emerging, illuminating the path ahead. With her daughter at her side, Jamie prepared to step into the light, a truth so powerful it could either break her or rebuild everything she thought lost. But as they took that step, Jamie felt the ground shift beneath them, and the shadows roared in anger. "No, you mustn't go." The voices howled, desperate and fiercer as they pulled at her, trying to reclaim their power. And just when it appeared they might escape, a familiar laugh, tainted with malice, echoed from the depths of the void. "You can never outrun your past, Jamie." As the world around her caved in and the darkness lunged one last time, Jamie clung tightly to Lily, steeling herself for the confrontation ahead. Would the fight against the shadows lead her to rescue her brother, or would it shatter the fragile bonds of her family forever? The darkness wavered around them, flickering like a wavering flame caught in a storm. Jamie felt Lily's small hand in hers, a lifeline amidst the chaos. "Stay close, baby," she whispered, her voice shaking but resolute. With every step, the whispers of the forest clawed at her mind, enticing her to accept their pain as her own. The shadows coiled tighter, vibrant with the horrors of memories, mustered a cacophony of emotions swirling in a malicious dance around them. "Mommy, what do they want?" Lily's voice trembled, echoing with both fear and innocence. They want us to remember, Jamie replied, her heart pounding against the weight of grief pressing down on her. Suddenly, a flash of light cut through the dark, illuminating the clearing they had first entered. Jamie hesitated, her eyes darting around like a trapped animal. The boy Oliver stood there, his face shadowed, yet familiar. "You can do this," he urged, the light in his eyes a mixture of hope and regret. "You've already taken the first step." She could hear the whispers shift, dark winds rustling through the gnarled branches like dry leaves. The sorrowful wails escalated, echoing throughout the clearing, reminding Jamie of every moment she wanted to forget. Memories of laughter, togetherness, but also fractured moments, arguments. The day Oliver vanished, a family shattered. "Please," she mouthed, struggling against the flood of pain. "Help us find peace," the shadows urged, their voices blending into one. The guilt surged. Could she really face it all? She could feel the agony closing in, creeping along her skin, intertwining with every breath she took. "Lily, hold on." Jamie squeezed her daughter's hand tighter. The past didn't want to be forgotten, and she could sense its desperation to reclaim them. "Mommy," Lily whimpered as Jamie felt the darkness try to pull them apart. Focusing on the flickering light, Jamie thrust herself forward. "No, I want to let you take her." She stepped closer to Oliver, his form shimmering like a mirage. "Help me remember," she pleaded. "Show me the truth." In that moment, the shadows surged forward, enveloping her like a whirlwind. Words erupted around her, demands mingled with cries for understanding and forgiveness. She strained against their pull, age-old stories flowing like blood between the trees. Jamie focused, anchoring herself in love rather than fear. "I remember," she yelled at the top of her lungs, each word resonating through the clearing. The muddy past, the corners of her memories, sharp and painful, cobbled together within her heart, pulsing in time with hers. The shadows gasped, losing form and reality, flickering like poorly handled flames. With a rush, images of her childhood filled her vision, playing with Oliver beneath the vast canopy of oak trees, his laughter a sweet melody in the sun. Then darkness fell, the moment her heart shattered. The day he disappeared, the echoes of regret intertwined with her lifeblood, threading her past to the present. "Mommy," Lily shouted once more, grounding Jamie. She suddenly felt a rush of energy pulse through her veins. "We're together. Remember that, Jamie." Jamie felt the power surge, an unyielding force guiding her focus. "I remember you," she shouted anew. "I remember us." The shadows paused, confusion rippling through them. The figures in the dark began to change, familiar faces flickering through the chaos. Among them, she could see the warm smile of her father, the gentle laughter of her mother. They, too, were lost yet yearning for the connection Jamie had buried deep in her heart. Taking a deep breath, she stepped bravely into the heart of the shadows, the light guiding her forward. "You want to take my family," she cried defiantly, an unstoppable warmth radiating from her core. "You don't define us." In that decisive moment, pure light erupted from the gathering of lost souls, a bright beacon turning the darkness into a brilliant sunrise. "Remember," they cried in unison, their voices a symphony of hope. Lily squeezed Jamie's hand tighter, their connection solidifying through every tear shed, every memory woven. "Together, we are family," Jamie shouted, resolve flooding her spirit. And with that declaration, the shadows splintered and shattered, cascading into 1,000 glimmers of light that danced in the clearing. The darkness receded, revealing a tranquil expanse of soft grass and sunlight spilling over them like a warm embrace. As they stood in the wake of the release, Jamie felt the pain of her ancestors ebb away, a weight lifted, healing washing over her. The faces of her family surrounded her, their smiles now radiant, swirling around in joyous celebration. She felt Oliver's presence, not as a specter, but as a pulse in the fabric of her being, a part of her forever entwined with love. "Thank you," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. And as the warmth enveloped them, she knew it was time to leave the past behind, to step into the embrace of a new beginning. Hand in hand with Lily, they moved towards the light, hearts lighter than when they had entered the forbidden forest. The truth unburdened them. The past didn't need to define the future. As long as they held each other close, they carry the remembrances of their family, fusing pain with strength, love connecting them all. As they stepped out of the shadows into the day, Jamie exhaled, feeling the last remnants of doubt fade away. Together, family. At long last, she understood they would always be a part of her, lighting her way forward. Now, don't let this tale end here. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel for more exclusive stories, or you might just miss the next thrilling adventure. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support is everything. And don't forget to flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this unbelievable conclusion. Finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this spectacular finale. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of backing up the channel with these actions. Your engagement matters.